What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Trae Bro Dude, and unfortunately, I did not want to have to do this podcast this early in the season, but it is officially panic mode for our Philadelphia 76ers. They're 500 again. They're in the play-in range. The team looks completely dysfunctional when the Stars play. They are 2-5 when Joel Embiid and James Harden both play. No one is in sync. No one's on the same page. Who should be blamed for this? So we talked about all that. Is Doc Rivers back in the hot seat? Should we start blaming Daryl Morey, who's the one who put this team together? Should the Stars be held more accountable, James Harden and Joel Embiid? So we talked about all of that and more throughout this episode, whether it is the beginning of the end or if that might just be a little bit of an overreaction. So before we get into that, I do want to talk to you about our partners from Underdog Fantasy, the best and newest place to play fantasy sports and win big prizes. So on there today, you can go on and you can use from their pick'em section. You can pick your favorite NBA player stats. You can go higher or lower on them. I have a few picks for tonight, which is Wednesday, December 7th. The Nets and the Hornets play, and I have a feeling that this is going to be a really high-scoring back-and-forth game. Both of these teams don't play defense. Both of these teams score a ton. They got a bunch of hoopers. So my picks for the higher, lower for tonight, I have Terry Rozier higher than 21.5 points. Last time he played them, he got 25. He, generally speaking, has big games against the Nets. So I have a feeling that Terry Rozier is going to hit that higher on his 21.5 points. Then I have Mason Plumlee over 9.5 rebounds. Last time he played, he got a ton of rebounds against the Nets. The Nets are actually, the Sixers are the worst rebounding team in the NBA, if you can believe that. But the Nets are the third worst rebounding team in the NBA right now. I think Mason Plumlee is going to eat on the boards tonight. And then, of course, we have Kevin Durant. I have higher on his points, 28.5. He's averaging 29 points a game. I think that he's been a little bit more passive recently, but I think that he's going to start having some statement games, throw his hat into the MVP race. The Nets, they've looked much better recently. And I think that Durant really needs to take over in order for them to get to that next level if they want to be considered NBA championship contenders. So those are my three picks. If you put $10 on that on Underdog, you can get 6 times your money. Your payout would be $60. So you can go on there today and use my promo code SLOP, that's SLOP, and get a $100 deposit match bonus. And if Pick'em is not your thing, they also have daily fantasy sports drafts, which we do all the time. We do NBA ones. We do NFL ones. I tweet out the link. We compete against each other. It's been a ton of fun. I love it for NFL Sundays. I love it for random big nights. There's been like random nights in the NBA where there's like 15 games. So we can draft. Like last week, I had a team that was completely stacked. I had like Steph and Jokic, and I scored a ton of points and actually took back some money. So it's a lot of fun. So if you use the promo code SLOP, that's SLOP, you will get a $100 deposit match bonus. It supports me. It supports the podcast. It keeps the partnership going. It's been a great partnership so far, and we have a lot of other exciting things coming up that we are planning with Underdog right now. So if you're not already, please sign up for Underdog, use their pick'em, do the daily fantasy drafts with us, and let's have some fun this NBA season. One last thing, if you are watching on YouTube, please like this video. It really helps. Subscribe, turn on your notifications. And in addition to that, we are also on playback this Friday against the Lakers. So it's Sixers, Lakers. We're going to be streaming during the game. It's basically just like Manning Cast. If you haven't joined before, it's a ton of fun. We basically just riff the whole time. I pull people up on stage for their trade ideas and their hot takes. So we're going to be doing it this Friday against the Lakers, and then next Friday against the Warriors. So please check out both of those streams. I would really appreciate if you could come out and support. It's been a ton of fun so far. We want to try to get as many people involved as possible and make the Sixers games a little bit more enjoyable. Thanks. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Trill Bro Dude, and another solemn episode, unfortunately, about our baby boys, the Philadelphia 76ers. We have Matt, a.k.a. Panasonic DX4500. I appreciate you putting it on the screen so that I didn't forget it this time. What's going on, Matt?
Hey, nothing good, obviously, but, we're here. We're, for now, still alive, so... we've got that going for us. We'll see by the end of the episode. We'll see how it goes. But
I just want everyone to know I've scanned both gentlemen for firearms. They have no access to any devices or any weapons. So just know that a check was done. As a mental health professional, I have taken all precautions against damage that the Philadelphia 76ers in December can do to a human being. So
there will be no Bud Dwyer. There will be.
In spite of what the Hogs tuned into every Hawks live stream for, we have kept Trill from Bud Dwyering. And God willing, I will get him over the finish line. He is going to have to watch Sixers playoff basketball.
Well, I am towing a line right now because I want to express my real opinions, but I also don't want everyone to hate me and not listen to the podcast. So, in the Discord, I've been sharing a lot of my real, true opinions on the team and everything, and it has not got the greatest reviews. But we need to talk just about we're doing a vibe check a little bit here because, I mean, look, we've had some moments this year where the team was fun, but every time the team is fun, it's more in a low expectation, nothing to lose kind of way.
When the team has been fun, it's been fun in the way that when you were on the Titanic and the band was still playing and you're like, oh, I like this song.
Yeah, I'd say it's got kind of a Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, when they're kind of, before they turn the corner the last time. So yeah, that's that.
Just
that,
a little bit, oh, hey, yeah.
Honestly, those moments are always fun. That's how I felt about the Hospital Celtics the year after Gordon Hayward went down, and
sure,
it's just okay, playing with house money at
which
this
time.
Point.
Well,
yeah, good point.
Well, Sam, is it karma that a week ago we did an episode called "Should the Bulls Blow It Up," and within a week I've kind of arrived at the same conclusion that I had after the first few games, which was first few games of the season. I was like, yeah, I mean, this team just kind of fucking sucks. I don't really know what else to say. I can break down why I think they suck. I can talk about how lethargic they look. I can talk about how no one seems in sync. It doesn't seem like the team practices. Oh, because they don't fucking practice. I could say, let's get rid of the head coach, but the team looked fine without the star players. When the star players play, the team has literally no game plan, and part of this is on the coach. Part of this is on the stars. Part of this is on the general manager, who is going on to I want to rant on Daryl Morey for a little bit, just because I feel as though I've made my peace with the Doc thing. If Doc doesn't get fired this year, then I have no other choice than to just fucking destroy Daryl Morey for what he's done, because he is the one that constructed this roster, knowing who his coach was, that gave him these players. And now Kyle Neubeck, who is plugged into the front office, is saying that the team has no inkling that they're going to fire Doc Rivers at all this season. Basically, they haven't even thought about it. And if that's the case, then the only person that I can really turn to here is Morey in this situation, other than another conversation that we'll get into a little bit. But the reason that I say this is because he has this level of, he has this resume, he has stands, he has this following, and he kind of tricks Sixers fans in a way that made it seem like, I think that what we were getting ourselves into was someone who was going to lead the team to a championship, or at least contend for a championship. The conference finals, and someone said in the comments, Elton Brand, you're the GM of the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not even saying that. But what I'm saying is, if the GM doesn't want to consider firing the coach, then I feel like we have to start looking at the GM and saying, okay, well, if the team can win without the stars, your guy is James Harden. You brought in James Harden to work with this team, to work with Joel Embiid, to take the team to the next level, to try to get to a conference finals, get to a finals, win a championship. And, it was Harden's first game back last night, but for the large majority of his time with the Sixers, he's been a bit of a disappointment. and you put everything, you put all of our last remaining assets, you put, obviously Ben Simmons' value was much lower than expected. That's not necessarily even his fault, even though he might have not handled the situation. He chose him over the Tyrese Halliburton package, which would have made our window longer. And now I'm sitting here saying, like, he went on Rights to Ricky Sanchez earlier this year and talked about how fans and Mike Levin from Rights to Ricky Sanchez overvalue role players. And now we have seemingly role players who can only play without the stars. The stars don't seem to really, the coach isn't connected with the stars. The stars don't seem to respect the coach because unless he's literally not running plays like he kind of suggested that he was and just letting them handle it. And then the stars, Joel Embiid and James Harden, honestly look like shit at the end of most games and are once again lethargic. They're turning the ball over in the biggest possessions of the game. And I just feel like I was led to believe that this guy was going to come in and try to fix the team. Now, maybe it was just too far gone by the time he got here. But now I'm looking at it like, if you don't want to consider firing the coach, who I think that's really your last kind of Hail Mary move that you could do here to try to save the season, then I don't really know why we're not criticizing him and the stars more, because they're the ones that could get the coach fired. And if we can, I'm not even going to sit here and criticize the coach because the coach did fine without the stars. And because those guys could easily get Doc fired if they wanted to, and they have not tried to do that. So I'm going to start criticizing them more is my whole thing. That's it.
This is perfect. This is perfect.
I was letting that one simmer. You went off.
Yeah.
He was cooking.
He was cooking. We were running Claire out plays for you, like Doc Rivers should do for. I mean, I don't know. Do you want? I don't know if Matt, you want to take a swing before I try and good cop this. But
I mean, frankly, I'm just ready to burn the entirety of Wells Fargo Center to the ground.
Parody, satire, joking, please.
No,
that was a
actually metaphorically.
Metaphorically, thank you.
Metaphor, yes.
It belongs to the Flyers anyway, so
you can't do that. I don't know. My take on this, I still. So, do you want to know how many 3-game streaks the Sixers have this season?
Hold on. All I care about
in either direction.
I know that they've had they started the season 0-3. They just had a recent 3-game winning streak, and they're coming off a 3-game losing streak right now. So I'm assuming it's at least 3, maybe 4.
I think it's 6. 3-game losing streaks and 3-game winning streaks. Let me double check that, but it's at least 3 different 3-game winning streaks, and I think at least 2 2-game winning streaks. So this is a team that is kind of ebbing and flowing. It's kind of and like, to your point about Doc, I think a lot of what you said is very cogent and makes a lot of sense, especially given blame and assigning it to, Daryl Morey and, sort of everyone else. Sorry. So it's 3 different 3-game winning streaks and 2 different 3-game losing streaks. So 5 different, that's 15 games out of the 24 they've played have been part of either winning streaks, 3-game winning streaks, or losing streaks. And I think that sort of, the reason I bring that up is because I think that has a lot to do with people coming in and out of the lineup is happening all the time. Like, have the Sixers had their full team healthy for a stretch of time at any point?
No, they haven't. No. But in the games that the 2 best players have played, they're 2-5. And that's unacceptable. That's my thing. Is like, that is why I'm so annoyed, is that the team is 10-7 when either Harden or Embiid are out in the game, and they're 2-5. And I think largely that, and yes, I don't think that they're going to end up being a 500 team, but you built this team to be one of the 3 best teams in the East. You didn't build this team to be just above 500. You built this team to win a championship. That, in theory, Daryl Morey did. And they're 2-5 with their 2 best players. Like, that is terrible. And 2 of the losses are against the Rockets and the Spurs.
Yeah,
it's true.
No, I was gonna say, the better the roster gets, like the worse the on-court performance seems to be. And like you can only excuse that so much before you just have to like wonder if something's like fundamentally broken with the way that the team's like Trill. I remember, earlier in the year, we were talking about how like this was like the most smooth offseason we've had in a while, the most normal. They added guys, but nothing fundamentally changed. It seemed like a steady ship. And so like, it just makes it more concerning. I feel like that, like they're still just don't seem like they understand how any of this works. They don't seem to like understand how to make, my whole point is that having Joel Embiid and James Harden on your team together, it shouldn't look this hard. It shouldn't look like this difficult to find a way to make that work.
It shouldn't be this unwatchable. That's my whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's not enjoyable to watch. And that is another reason why, hey, maybe getting another coach in here that can get into their ears and have a system could work. But if the ownership group and the GM are not even willing to consider that at this point, like I'm starting to think like we know that teams always fall back into their bad habits when it comes to the playoffs when other teams prepare for them. So like all these signs that they're showing early in the season, the apathy on defense, the horrible rebounding, no one boxing out, no one trying. And then in addition to that, like just making an unwatchable brand of basketball where it's just ISO after ISO after ISO in the second half and overtime of this game yesterday makes me think that like another coach would help because another coach might be able to get through to this roster, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So I'm kind of at a loss is my whole thing here is that I think the reason why I've been so down on the team is because I don't see that kind of quick fix unless they get a new coach who can maybe inspire the team, send another message that we've seen with other teams happen in the NBA. In Matt's wearing a Phillies jersey with the Phillies. Like we see this from time to time, but it doesn't seem like they're willing to even entertain that. So I don't know why. Like I don't really want to waste my energy thinking about it.
Yeah. I think it's impossible to think about a team that was like having a really bad time and then did a coaching change and then totally went to another level and made the finals. That just doesn't happen in the NBA
Never
anymore. But I mean that's my point. I guess that's the thing is like guys, the NBA, I think what makes the NBA different and why it's my favorite sport, more so than baseball, more so than, some of these other things is because there are these things that calculator rats can't quantify. And that's we fucking hate our coach. He's an annoying old man who no one has done less with more in an NBA coaching career than Doc Rivers. I'm well versed in having Doc Rivers as your coach. Like he's doesn't play young guys, just uncreative, and I get it, and I understand the knee-jerk reaction to kind of let Doc off the hook when like young guys come in and like play free, but like your first job as an NBA coach is managing. That's Doc's thing. He's supposed to be the managing personalities guy.
Right.
If he's not managing personalities, if Joel Embiid is really what is he doing? You didn't bring Doc in here to
develop. Right. He's not an X's and O's guy.
Right.
Motivator is supposed to be like his thing, like gets through to guys respect him because he's players coach, whatever. Mm-hmm. I've said it time and again. I don't really know what he does. I don't know what he does. Like
I think it's whole I'm going to go on a whole tangent here if you let me. Because I think the one thing about the Sixers nobody's mentioned, and I think this season in the way that the Phillies and the Eagles have made it like really obvious. It's just like the ownership to me is the big thing for the Sixers because like I don't know, you look at the Eagles and like Glory, he gets it. He's like he is really like ride or die with that team, and like Middleton and the Phillies, like I don't think they get it like that, but like they understand baseball. And like, he's at least a guy like John S. Middleton is at least a guy who I think is like, he thinks, oh, it's cool to own the baseball team. I'm going to try and make them win sometimes if it works. I just don't think the ownership of the Sixers care. I think they just see them as an asset.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to get the stadium built so they can flip them. They bought them when they were still the process Sixers and the value was like dirt cheap.
Sure.
And like a lot of things make sense, like, you know, why Doc Rivers has so much leash. It's less that he's like a good coach, but he's like a name brand recognizable coach.
And
Wow.
he's
And I think
making
that's
the
all-
MLE as well. He's making the mid-level exception for the next
$8
3
million
years.
a year for 2 more years. So if you fire him,
Crazy.
But like,
for 3 more.
I think
years,
it's honestly just like they just value that. They value, you know, you got guys running the Sixers who really just don't know anything about basketball or how it works, and they just think Doc Rivers is the name they recognize, and they won't touch him. They say, like, you know, we're gonna keep him around.
And also Michael Rubin, who just left the team, was the last guy that really had any sort of connection to basketball, new players, was a fan of the game, really. I do think there is some legitimacy to that, and I think it's more the money thing. I think it's more we spend a bunch of money on, like, so for example, you brought up the Phillies. We spent a bunch of money on this team. Now make it work is the thing now. Like, we gave you the full, you spent the full MLE, you spent the biannual exception on PJ Tucker and Daniel House, 2 guys who have had mixed results, mostly bad so far, I would say, to start their Sixers careers. We gave you, you know, we let you have Ben Simmons sit out for half a season and tried to wait it out and get the best possible return that you could get. And what we're left with is very similar to what was here before Morey, which was the 2019-2020 Sixers, which didn't fit, which quit on the coach, which had some talent at the top, but, you know, could not rely on a ton of talent on that team beyond the top few guys. And I'm just frustrated because I feel like they've had so many opportunities, and it feels like they've just, like, and this isn't even just on Morey. This is like, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was talking about like how hard it is to build a championship team in the modern NBA with all the talent that there is. And this is something that someone on Discord said, which was like, there's no walkovers anymore. Like, we played the Houston Rockets last night and the San Antonio Spurs a few weeks ago before they went on this terrible losing streak. But like, there's really no teams that you're just going to have an easy off night and just go in and just beat because you're more talented. That doesn't really happen in the NBA anymore. Too many good players around the league that can just have an upset like last night. And when that is the case, and you have guys who are in and out of the lineup, lack of chemistry, all that shit, that makes it so that you basically have such a less margin for error on a night-to-night basis. But on the big picture, the Sixers had, in theory, like, if Joel Embiid truly is the best, good enough to be the number one guy on a title team, which I honestly don't even know if he is. And I know that a lot of people get mad at me when I say this, but I just think the reality is that the NBA has, like, I said it on the last episode, like 7 or 8 guys that are really fucking good. And I think there's an argument that there's like 3 or 4 guys in the Eastern Conference right now. If you're going into the playoffs, you would rather have them over Joel Embiid, considering health, considering who they are as players, considering how they've played in the playoffs. And even if this is the case, I said coming into the year, the best version of Joel Embiid, I think, is someone who locks in on defense, who is absolutely amazing on that end, and then on offense can kind of function within the offense, and it doesn't have to be the entire offense. Well, once again, we're in MVP mode where anytime Joel plays, everyone stands around. We have to wait for him to cook. And then down the stretch of big games like last night, he's tired at the end of games, and he's making the worst decisions possible in crunch time again. And look, Harden was horrible last night. I'm not going to act like he wasn't. He made 18 missed shots or some shit. Like, he was terrible.
4 for 19, I think.
Yeah, he was bad. He was very bad, and he had a ton of turnovers. Like, I'm not even forgiving James Harden, but I don't really expect as much from James Harden as I do from the best player on our team, the guy who's been an MVP candidate for the past 2 years. But the reason that I go back to kind of this big picture thing is, like, they had their opportunities to kind of build around Joel in a way that would have been as close to perfect as you could possibly expect. Like someone said earlier that, oh, well, every team just wants wings who can shoot and pass and dribble and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we had them on our team, dude. We had Jeremy Grant. We had Jimmy Butler. We drafted Mikal Bridges. There are players that were literally on our team that could have fit well. And that wasn't even, this was before Morey got here. That's why I'm so frustrated, is because it feels like it's kind of the beginning of the end for this era of Sixers basketball. And it feels like they had so many missed opportunities throughout the years.
So, yeah, I mean, well, I think that's probably the biggest what if in this Sixers run is that honestly, I think that's even bigger than like some of the draft stuff is the Jimmy Butler, keeping Jimmy versus keeping Tobias. Because I think that's the other, not to go full boomer mode, but I think you do need a guy who's going to, hold people accountable, in the locker room. And I feel like the Sixers do kind of miss some of that sometimes. And I think that is something that they've missed, especially in the playoffs
or maybe just a guy who can literally hit the shot at the end of the game like he did at the end of the Celtics game the other night.
Right.
Or like he did in the playoffs. Twice.
Yeah, he fucked us twice.
Yeah.
Jalen Brown in a miracle. I was like, eat shit, Jimmy Butler. And then he fucking did it again.
Yeah.
God, it sucks that he's good. Oh, fuck. I mean, yeah. Jimmy's like, look, I've given him a lot of shit. He's like, he's a hardo. He's like one of the biggest, but he backs it up, man. Like he is that guy. He is a dog.
I said after we lost to them in the playoffs, I was like, I hate him, but I have to respect it. I literally have to respect it because he's so fucking good.
No, he's like perfect. He's found his perfect team. He's a try hard, and then he's just surrounding him with rat mode is just, it's a perfectly frustrating team. But I think that, like that's because that's what we're really talking about, right? I think there's a Tobias Harris. I know he had a really good game in that Rockets game. Yeah. Was he 7 for 8 from 3 or something like that? The fact that he was 7 for 8 from 3, and that's what you're saying, is the Tobias Harris experience, right? Like that's the
Well, no, he was good. He was good, but exactly, it's not his fault that the team decided to give him $180 million. But it's just frustrating.
Well, that's the.
It's amazing to me that that's the one contract that Morey's never been able to touch. He cleaned up every other mess that pretty much for the most part that he came in up with. But like Tobias Harris, he's always been like, we're just stuck with that. That's not
because that's the thing, right? Okay, so like let's say. So let's take the fatalistic, unless you don't want to do the straw because it piss off the Hawks.
You're good.
Let's take the fatalistic thinking like one step further. Like, because what's the Zag? You know me. I'm anti blow it up. I'm anti. I really think you tend to make things worse when you do that. And I think doctoring it and playing around, as long as you actually try something and make a smart move, is usually preferable. And you can fix a lot of shit in a short amount of time. Like I didn't really get, and I mean, let's be clear. I mean, what the Blazers are doing is not exactly title contending, but they've moved themselves from a very bad situation to a pretty nice situation moving forward. At least something with
an inspiring one, I would say.
Yeah. In not that much time,
Sure.
So that's the thing. It's like, look, I have never been in a more dark place than the beginning of last Celtics season, like coming off of that like loss. And I really think that like everyone wanted to trade Jaylen Brown. Like, can you imagine if they had done some of the shit that trading him to the Grizzlies, for example, for whatever the fuck that was gonna bring back? Yeah. Like that, I think that kind of getting frustrated and like doing panic moves is not the right thing. What is a good panic move, to go back to it though, is Doc Rivers. What the Celtics did do is they did change their coach. Brad Stevens is a very good coach, but guys just get fucking sick of a coach after a long period of time. Like even a coach as accomplished as Steve Kerr, that is, like you can see the cracks in that team and kind of, everybody. It's hard to keep a team together for a long time without any change. And, how you want to make that change is up to you. Do you want to trade the third best guy? Do you want to trade the coach or, change out the coach? Do you want to bring in, you do need to retool a team. It's almost impossible to always keep a team of 6 to 8 guys and a coach together for an extended period of time without it, getting stale and, things starting to pop up and guys getting frustrated with each other. And I guess that's the thing is to go back to what we talked about earlier. I think it's pretty clear that Doc is the thing that needs to go in my book. You know what I'm saying? Like that is the clearest path to changing this. It's costs you no cap space. It has no tinkering. It is literally just ownership money. And maybe that is the problem and why he is not being fired,
Right. And I've had people say to me like, I started to have these thoughts a few weeks ago about like blowing it up, about whatever. And I was like, look, let the season play out, see where it goes. Exactly. What I keep coming back to, though, is that if you're looking at it from, if you realistically, if your goal, you have one of two routes here. If you want to try, because like I'm not even going to get to the trade Joel, because I think trading Joel doesn't make you any better. It's if anything, it's just that, okay, now Morey's buying himself time so he can actually rebuild the team. And who knows, he might not even want to fucking do that. Like, he's never tanked in his entire life. I know he's put protections on every pick past this year that we've traded.
A non-tank king. He might be a calculator rat, but he understands the assignment. No tanking. Let's go.
I mean, I think he only took this job because Joel Embiid was here. To be honest,
right, that's what I'm saying. It's like
he came here.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think there's two routes that you can go. If you want to go the panic mode route after the season, you trade Tobias Harris's expiring contract along with Tyrese Maxey, and you try to get that third star that might fit the timeline a little bit better with Joel Embiid and James Harden, assuming that James Harden is going to come back. Or the second one is you let James Harden walk after the season and try to get another guy either via or after this season or the following season. Harden has a player option next year. So he is open to leave if he would like, if things don't really work out. That's the only way I really ever see Morey move. Another reason why I think I'm starting to regret the Harden trade a little bit, and I don't even necessarily think it has that much to do with James Harden's play, is the fact that even though his play style and Embiid's play style is a little bit weird and it's not fitting great so far, it's that I don't ever see Daryl Morey trading James Harden. Yeah. Like, that's his guy. Like, if Harden wants to leave, Morey will help him get to go wherever he wants to go. If after the season he's like, you know what, I want to go play for the Lakers. They have cap space. I want to try to win a title. AD looks great. LeBron's on his last whim here. Like, maybe we can try. I'm from California. Like, whatever it is, maybe that's the case. But the idea here, the bigger picture thing here, is that Morey gave them flexibility with cap space after the Harden deal is up in a few years, and technically right before Tyrese Maxey's extension kicks in, assuming that they sign him. So those are really the routes that you have to go down after this season. But other than that, like, it pretty much has to be a big move unless there's a guy that, like, I'm just not even thinking of right now that they could get. And, like, look, shit changes very quickly in the NBA. You can hit on a draft pick. You can hit on a random guy just being like, yeah, I want to go play with them. I don't know who the fuck it is, but like there's always some random shit that could happen. But banking on that should not be a strategy. And now like I want to see this season play out, and I don't think they should make any big panic moves in season. That never works. That has never worked one fucking time. I'm not going to act like it had. Like, there's never been an in-season trade. I mean, honestly, we kind of had to trade Ben Simmons last year, but there's never been an in-season trade that helps a team win a championship when you're getting in another star, unless it's a Pau Gasol level fleecing.
Right. Pau Gasol is like the only time that's ever worked.
It's the only time it's ever worked, and it was because it was the fleecing of all fleecings. They gave up fucking nothing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I would like to see a big panic move trade, but only because it's like, when you jingle keys in front of a baby and they come I would like to see that. But like, I understand if that maybe doesn't make sense, like, analytically or something.
Well, no, it just doesn't make any sense from the perspective of, like, someone tweeted at me earlier. No, I'm not even kidding. They tweeted at me, whispers, what's the value that we could get for Tyrese Maxey back in a trade? And I was like, the Sixers are 2-5 with Joel Embiid and James Harden. Why are you trading our best young player?
Yeah.
To like, if we were 7-3 with them and X-star wing, Paul George, Jimmy Butler, whoever it is, ass out, then I'd be like, all right, let's have the conversation. Like, this is a realistic thing. Even this past summer, people got mad at me when I said we should consider trading Tyrese Maxey for Donovan Mitchell. I didn't want to do it because I love Tyrese Maxey, but I also said I would understand that because those are the kind of players that you need to get if you want to win a title with Joel Embiid. And that is the thing here, is that like if we are under the mindset that Joel Embiid is the guy that's going to stay here for the rest of his career, you have to keep that in mind, and you have to make moves accordingly. And I don't think that there are any moves that you could make in season that could fix this, except for maybe some slight on the margins rotations and firing the coach.
Well, I mean, look, I haven't watched a ton of the Sixers. I've probably watched only like 5 or 6 of their games all year. But like it seems to me like the thing that the Sixers need is a Joel Embiid who's committed to defense and is all right with taking a little bit of a backseat on offense. And I think the only way you get that, I don't think that's a player personnel thing. I don't think he's playing the way he is because PJ Tucker's on the court necessarily. I think he's playing that way because his coach is not set him down and been like, look, you need to like do this. I think that's Doc is golfing or whatever the fuck. What was the thing from the Newbeck piece that Doc said that they like practice zone all the time?
I have this here. Yeah. So Doc, so they rolled out zone and it did not have good results. They played like, and we've all been screaming. We have DeAnthony Melton, Matisse Thybulle, Paul Reed. These are the perfect personnel to run a zone defense occasionally. Just like guys who have long arms that can get into passing lanes and it's incredibly hard to get past them. Like, that's perfect. So Doc basically says, we've been working on the zone defense. And then Tobias comes out and they ask him about working on the zone defense. And he's like, yeah, we haven't worked on that at all. And that's Tobias Harris, who's like Doc's long lost son, who like is gonna respect and not lie about whatever's like that. There's clearly a disconnect with at least the top players. I think Stock's message, and Kyle Newbeck put it perfectly in that piece. He said, "Look, Shake Milton playing great and beating the Magic in 2 straight games is awesome in November, but that's not what wins you titles. You weren't brought here for that."
Didn't even Maxey have some kind of didn't he throw Doc under the bus earlier this season? Did he have some quote after a game where he was just
So that was after the Joel Embiid near 60-point quadruple double game that he had. And he said Doc wanted to run a pick and roll in the fourth quarter with Maxey. And then Maxey was like, why don't we just give it to Joel? Like, no one can stop Joel right now. And then Doc was like, yeah, okay, all right, that sounds good. And then they just did that. And then Joel scored on like the next like 4 possessions or whatever it was.
Well, let me go for the kill here then. Because I know you said you brought this up. Like, Doc, they won without the stars. So, Doc should get some leeway with that. I think it's the opposite. I think when there's low expectations, anyone can win with not that much talent in the NBA because – as we talked about, the talent is still there. The league is so fucking deep. We forget how good these guys are. Like, I know it's like fun to like make fun of like, oh, look, here comes Devin Vassell and, whoever else. It's still, it's still Greg Popovich. I mean, these guys still, they're still running a system. They're still NBA players. They're athletes. They still won. What did the Spurs start? 5-0, 5-3, something like that?
Yeah, they won like their first. They went like 4-1 to start the season or some shit.
Well, and this is like, I guess this is like the. By the way, the Lakers, who are dog shit, they're literal dog shit, but are tricking everyone right now in the national media into thinking that they're not dog shit. This is another example of that because it's like everyone. Darvin Ham has just like figured out like the way to like sort of push the bell and whistle and the smoke machine button to make that happen because. It doesn't really matter in the regular season on a game-to-game night. What matters in the NBA is how do you get to the best level of your team. But taking a bad team to middle is one of the easiest things in the world. It's why, team
that's
guys
Thibs. Thibs is the perfect example. Yes,
exactly.
First year of Thibs teams, always honeymoon phase.
Right.
Dog shit team the year before, make the playoffs, and then they all hate the coach after a year, and then it goes downhill.
But that's what I'm saying. That doesn't make it. So do we think Thibodeau is a good coach? Because I would say no. He destroys any chance you have of like, look back at that Bulls team and how talented it was. Like I know Derrick Rose got hurt and everything like that, but I think Thibodeau got a lot of credit for that Bulls team that probably should have gone to the players. Like Joakim Noah was, I know by the end of it he was not good. He was an incredible player for like a very long time.
I mean, I would even point to the Timberwolves, right? That had Jimmy Butler, who is now like. all multiple. I mean, he's like a top 10 player in the playoffs and like couldn't do anything with it. So yeah.
What did you guys trade for Jimmy to the Wolves?
When, by the way, this was GM Thibodeau, by the way. He was the GM at the time as well. We traded Robert Covington, Dario Saric, and Jared Bayless and a second-round pick for Jimmy Butler. But it was the reason why was because Jimmy asked out and because
they felt like a lot at the time.
No.
On
that
NBA
was
Twitter. On Sixers Twitter, everybody freaked out. No, I'm saying
because everyone loved Dario.
Whenever your team, you're always
lost their mind.
There were some of us during the Brogdon trade who were like, Tice. I don't know. I just think that I don't think that you should get a lot of credit for taking a team. Like what defines you in the NBA is how well you prepare your team to operate at its apex. And
sure.
Doc Rivers is clearly not well equipped to get this Sixers team to its apex. I know it's easy to say like these are, these guys don't want to play, blah, blah, blah. They're so used to these things. The James Harden, Joel Embiid pick and roll is still one of the most effective fucking plays in the NBA. And I'm sorry for I just can't accept that there's just no way to make this work.
Yeah,
like with a coach. So
I don't even disagree.
I'm gonna make it simpler. Can I just say real quick? Like you've got Joel Embiid and James Harden on your team. You should be changing your coach every 2 weeks until you get someone who's able to make that work. That shouldn't be like the fact that we've held on to Doc this long. Like just if put them in, and if they can't instantly figure out a way to make that work, because it's like Sam just said, there's a built-in cheat code for it. It should be easy, and if you can't do it, they should just replace them.
I guess my whole thing. I guess my whole thing is that I don't think that he gets through to the players, the main players at all anymore. Clearly, because Doc has always talks about the importance of ball movement, and you see those things sometimes, and the team looks fine, and they give the effort. And then it just is. It's always so fleeting. It's never for a full game, or it's never for like a full week or whatever it is. And
it was an open joke last year that Tyrese Maxey, when he had the ball, he would look on the bench to see what James Harden was telling him to do instead of Doc.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, but this is and the other thing is how often, because the other thing is I think the NBA is finally starting to catch on that you don't necessarily need to hire old coaches. That is usually where you get yourself in trouble, and that is when you're bad. And hiring a new guy and giving a new guy a shot seems to work out
more often.
A lot of the time. Yeah, way more often.
I mean, the best coaches right now are all guys that are on the come up from, Taylor Jenkins. And obviously there are guys that have been around, but the guys who have been around have been with the same team. Kerr and Spo, and they haven't left their teams.
Head coaching is the only job where you can be repeatedly fired for bad performance, and other teams will be like, oh, well, they've got experience and it works.
Oh. Yeah. Well, then it happens all the time. I mean, look at what the Hornets did with Borrego. I get that some bad Miles Bridges, all the bad stuff that happened in the offseason to that, but you went back to Clifford. I get that they Atkinson went out of the way to do it, but this is what I'm saying. Just hire a new guy, give a new guy a shot. It just seems to work out when teams do that. Even for as bad as the Ime Udoka thing went, the Nets were ready to hire him. Probably shouldn't, but they were ready to hire
definitely
him.
Shouldn't. Yeah.
But
okay, well the Nets, what they have to lose at that point in public?
But this is what I'm saying.
It was just
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that giving young coaches, a chance. I think for example, Ty Lue. Remember when they fired, I can't remember, David Blatt. And they just promoted Ty Lue, and all of a sudden, 5 years later, I'd say Ty Lue is one of the top 5 coaches in the NBA. I have a lot of respect for him.
He's very good. Yeah.
And I don't know. You've got you see what Will Hardy has done. Joe Mazzulla has just kind of stepped into it. No problem here in Boston. There's no. I don't know. I just, it drives me crazy I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world for you guys to just, who's even on your assistant coaching staff? Sam Cassell, right?
Sam Cassell or Dan Burke or whoever. Whatever. Like if it comes down to it, if we get a single report that says Doc Rivers is on the hot seat, which we still have not got. We haven't gotten one report from any plugged-in journalist saying that Doc Rivers' job
get
is
the
trouble.
opposite.
Yes!
We repeatedly just get like reassurance.
It's all good.
Every 2 weeks we get one. Oh no, it's ice cold. It is. He's got a fan blowing on it.
Doc Rivers is Sixers royalty, and he will be serving a life term as the Sixers head coach.
You know who you guys have to blame for this, right? It's Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. I don't think that news is going to break until the Eagles are,
Yeah.
Once the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and then the eye of Sauron of Philly sports sort of turns on the Sixers.
I think it could the perfect time to fire Doc, and it sucks for him, but it's going to be like 11 p.m. on Christmas Eve, like if the Eagles just beat the Cowboys and like everyone's about to have Christmas.
Yeah.
And they just like dropped it. He's fired. Sam's coaching tomorrow.
Merry Christmas, Doc.
Yeah.
You are fired. Yeah. He'd be like, you mean I get to move back to LA and golf all winter?
He would be courtside making jokes with LeBron that day.
Like Doc Rivers, like, come on, like it's not like he's like a young coach scrapping at the margins. Like this man is coach. Like
he doesn't really seem like he's working that hard to reassure anyone either. He doesn't seem like he has to know that people want him.
I think he's kind of over it. Doc's 63 or something like that.
Yeah, he's over it.
I think Doc is just kind of like, whatever. If I die, I die. Who cares? He's got the Ivan Drago. Like, he doesn't care. Like, and you know what? Power to him. I mean, he's made a lot of fucking money. Like, got us the RJ Hunter pick. And I still think RJ Hunter could be a
there you go
piece for the Boston Celtics.
Let's go. All right, so let's end the Sixers talk. Yeah, I mean, I just don't really know what to do with this. I know that the Doc thing's the big thing, but like I want to see Morey needs to make fucking moves before the deadline. He needs to do something to improve this team, make the pieces fit, because the guys that he brought in are not a great fit with what the team wants to do. And the stars just need to be like Joel Embiid dropped 35 points on the last 2 games, and I don't even think he played well. Like that is how good he is, that he can just score 35 points and it's not even a big deal. And he fouled out of last night's game. He was terrible down the stretch. And I want to see better play out of Joel Embiid and James Harden. And that's kind of what it comes down to. And if the pieces don't fit, then we can revisit this in the offseason when you make those kind of big moves. Because you don't make those moves in season. You can fire a coach, but you can't make any sort of crazy in-season trade or anything like that.
You can.
So
yes, you can. It's fun. It's fun when you make it.
It'd be great for my brand. Are you kidding me? I would get more listeners than you could imagine. So.
We're not. I hate to break this, everyone. We're not winning the title this year anyway. Do a big explosive trade. Make it fun.
This is the reverse jinx. I don't like that. So against my best, against what is in my best interest as a Celtics fan, I'm gonna give Sixers fans the solution here. Okay. So, much like how in the U.S. here, we're turning down Russian immigrants because we want them to stay in Russia to protest the government and end the war in Ukraine. I have a similar idea. Yeah, we were doing that. So
I don't know if that's true, but it tracks. So okay.
No, it's true. It's true. So
it makes sense.
There's going to be a similar incentive at the game. If you're a Sixers fan, you are not allowed to watch the Eagles games. They will be blacked out. You will not be able to watch them on TV unless you go out and protest in front of the Wells Fargo Center and ask for Doc to be fired.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, we need people in the streets and, look, you're going to miss Jalen Hurts' MVP season.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't be bothered to go stand in action. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I'm going back to the old me. I'm going back to before the Ben Simmons trade, going to the Sixers practice facility and lighting myself on fire in protest. parody satire.
I'm excited for you guys to get Trae Young, though, for real. So
okay, perfect transition. Sam didn't even know I wanted to bring this up.
Okay, go ahead.
I did not tell Sam before that Trae Young would be a topic of conversation.
I figured, given news.
But yes. So Trae Young, everyone knows what's happening with Trae Young right now. He's trying to be a coach killer actually.
I would love having a coach killer, honestly.
Okay. We trade for Trae Young.
Uh-huh.
We get him in here, and he gets Doc fired.
Yes. Anthony Davis is out for the remainder of the game versus the Cavaliers due to flu-like symptoms. So does that mean he started playing?
It got COVID
halfway through. Dude, he rules. Oh, God.
Did he pull a Gobert?
Well, let's finish the trade thing, but I wanted to talk about the Lakers before we move on to the last part of the show at some point, too. So, because I want to talk about how perfect what's going on with them is.
Oh shit! All right, so here's the deal. Trae Young was obviously he's trying to get his coach fired. The reason I bring it up, other than the fact that like I don't think that Trae's gonna request a trade or anything this year, but if you heard the podcast between Ryen Russillo and Bill Simmons, did you hear the part where they talked about all the guys that they would take over Trae?
I'm glad. This is what I wanted to talk about with this because they were out. They were insane. They were on recency bias a billion. Like, look, I get it. Trae Young cannot defend. He's heliocentric. Sure. Like,
I have good experience that he can actually defend the post really well.
Great rim protector.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's
in clutch games.
He's guarded a huge Game 7 basket. He stopped a huge Game 7 basket from happening. Yes. But in all seriousness, he's a guy who, whatever you think of that run, has gotten to the conference finals as the best player on a team. And I'm sorry, the guys they were listing, I love a lot of those guys. They were going insane. I don't even remember the list.
Okay, I remember. I will run down.
When he said Desmond Bane, I blacked out.
Okay.
I was like, are you serious?
Okay, so they said the first few were like pretty obvious ones. I think at this point, like we don't even have to mention.
Shea, sure. Yeah, he can defend.
Real quick, Trill. I just love that you had like your brain just. Sam's like, I don't remember. It's like your brain just like, I remember everything from a business podcast. That never gets
locked in.
It's in here. It will never leave. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's
the vibe.
Can't remember.
I get mad.
Can't remember my grandparents' voice, but the Bill Simmons pod that's still on.
I'll be on my deathbed. It will be like the Notebook, where like they remember like she just like constantly lives her 20s and like remembers everything that happens. Except I'm just remembering it with Simmons and Russillo pods, and it's like. Yeah. Remember that one time
right there trying, do you remember me, Peepaw? And it's just like you just spouting out redraftables from like 2019.
And then Bill said that Tice is a better defender than Embiid.
You believe that? That's all right, Grandpa. Here, I've got the bedpan right here. It's right here. No. Well, it's just funny because that's our yin and yang vibe. Trill is able to shrug off the mean comments and has perfect recollection. I have rage blackouts when we get one mean YouTube comment and spend 7 hours building a spreadsheet to prove that tanking doesn't work. Anyway,
very normal.
I've made 8 dummy accounts just to leave bad reviews for the pod.
No,
that out there.
Well, you could just give more guys access to that. The Hogs, you just let the Hogs listen to me. We'll get there.
Well, Will's already been running wild in the comments. He said, "Sam, I couldn't agree more. The Blazers situation improved so much. Simons blossomed. They got Shaden Sharp. They turned CJ McCollum into Josh Hart and Jeremy Grant. Oh wait, that was all from tanking."
It's not true. That they were in the tank for 1 year. There's a proven fact. If things go wrong because their guy got hurt, they didn't go into that season wanting to be bad.
That's true.
Damian Lillard got hurt and they pivoted, and which is what you should do. So there, lawyered. Lawyered. That's right, Bill.
Court adjourned. So they said, so there were a few guys on there, Luka, SGA, Ja. I know Sam might argue that one. I think Ja is better than Trae at this point.
I do disagree on that. So
Halliburton. Okay. Maybe a little, I could hear the argument just because I think that I think it might, they're similar tiers. I'd still take Trae over Halliburton if I'm trying to build.
I'd like to see it in the playoffs. I mean, like that's the thing. You have never seen Halliburton in a playoffs of the team actually scheming around him. I know Trae Young can do well in the playoffs.
Sure.
Even with, look, what they won 2 games against Milwaukee team that won the championship.
Yeah.
Like
Giannis was hurt in the one game, but they won the first game off of them. And Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland were the next 2. Then they also said this is where, so those ones where I was like, okay, I could hear the argument. I guess I might lean one direction or the other, but I think they're all similar tiered players. I think Trae's having a bit of a down year. I think that when he's at his best and in the right situation, he can be like a top 5 offensive player in the NBA, or at least top 10. Yeah. So that was, I could hear it out. Then they got deeper into the list and they were like Desmond Bane. And I was like, okay, now we're getting a bit ridiculous. And their argument was, I don't want to have Trae as my number 1 guy, basically no matter what. Because of everything you mentioned about the defense and the heliocentrism and him getting a second coach fired and all of this.
They were boomerang. They were doing the coach killer thing again, which of all of it, that's actually probably the most defensible. You know what I'm saying? Because it needs to be like, you do need to be a little bit of introspection. And I'll even give them this. The Hawks have put, it's not like they put a bum roster around him every year. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've had a good team. They did trade Herter, I think, is probably the worst thing that Hawks front office has done, but they've done a pretty good job outside of that, I think.
Yeah.
So
they draft pretty well.
Were you laughing at if Sam was running the Magic but still have Vooch?
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty good bit. Yeah.
I'll pull that one up on the screen so everyone can see it. Sam was running the Magic. They'd still have Vucevic. The Aaron Gordon Vucevic Magic are still going strong.
It's not true. I would have done a brilliant trade. We'd still have Oladipo.
And Tobias Harris.
We'd be building up the great Magic dynasty. The Magic would have been coming off their 3rd straight playoffs appearance in my alternate reality.
With Victor Oladipo, Evan Fournier, Tobias Harris.
We would have had Jimmy Butler because we would have been trying to buy and we would have swooped in and topped the Sixers offer. And
there you go.
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, got him to Florida
loves
early.
Florida.
There you go.
Right?
Yep.
He's doing great. It would have been a different Florida.
The owners of the Magic are conservative. It works.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The bosses. Only good. Oh, God.
So yeah, I just had to bring that up. The one that really drove me insane on that, and I definitely think Trae's way better than Bane, and I would definitely take Trae over Bane. But the Simons one was funny to me because I'm like, isn't Simons?
And so it's just a worse Trae Young.
It's just a much worse Trae Young. I didn't get that one at all. I thought that was pretty funny.
Even that much younger than Trae Young?
No, they're the same age, I think.
Yeah.
They're the same draft. I'm pretty sure they were both 2018. Yeah.
Jeez.
How old is Trae Young? What is Trae Young?
23.
Yeah.
Trae's 23, right?
Yeah. So age isn't even a factor for that.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Trae. Oh, also speaking of Trae's 24, but he just turned 24.
Oh, well, never mind. He's over the hill. You got to deal that way.
Yeah, he's washed.
Yeah, that's an old.
All right, Anthony Simons is 23, and he turns 24 in. Hold on 1 second. In June, so he is about 6 months to it. Oh, no, he's like almost a full year younger than Trae.
Right. No, but Simmons vindicated.
There you go. One year. Simons just needs to become a top 5 passer in the NBA in the next year, and he's good.
Yeah. Honestly, so isn't there like some crazy things? Like, aren't the Hawks like, having insanely bad 3-point shooting luck too. Like I feel like they're like
I just think they have bad. Well, yeah, because Trae's like one of their best 3-point shooters, and he's shooting like shit from 3. And then they have no real other shoot. Like AJ Griffin's their best shooter.
Well, but because he's good.
He is good, but he's 19. Like I don't really feel like that's like.
He is shooting 37%. That is a little crazy. Yeah, everyone on the team is under 36%. Like DeAndre Hunter, 35.
But they're not. They didn't build the team with shooting. That was the one thing I said coming into the year was like I felt like they were going to be the same seed as they were last year because they basically did a massive overcorrection where they got rid of they improved their defense, but they got rid of their shooting. Yeah. And I was like, they don't have any off-ball shooters. That's what I was saying all offseason. I was like, their best off-ball shooter was, and this was before I thought AJ Griffin was going to be in the rotation, was Justin Holiday. And Justin Holiday's having a terrible year shooting too. So like, I think they will balance back out, but I still think they're going to be in like that play-in range.
But like, listen to this. Okay. Like the worst 3-point shooting team in the NBA. The bottom 3 are the Knicks, Hornets, and Timberwolves. Then it's the Hawks. They're a 32% shooting team. And then the next 2 teams are the Raptors and Lakers. I'm sorry, there's just no way. Like, I know Herter is good. There is no way that he's going to hold up. Like, they're going to hit some threes. Trae is, shooting 29%, I think, from 3.
Yeah, that's
like,
bad.
It's not sustainable. That's not, like, that. I don't think there's any reason to panic. I mean, I guess they kind of have to because if Trae is, like, just openly, like, just refusing to play in games, that's not so good. But,
yeah,
I don't know. I think the Hawks – I think the Hawks will end up.
We support it.
Yeah. Well, I just think the Hawks are. I mean, they're 13-11. You know what I'm saying? I think they're going to separate out into being in that sub tier below the Celtics and Bucks. I think they're going to be more on the tier with the Cavs and some of these other teams by the end of the year.
All right, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I do think that I joked last year when the Hawks were struggling before the trade deadline and tried to trade us John Collins and picks for Ben Simmons that I was like, they just got to fire their head coach every 6 months and then they'll get to the Eastern Conference Finals again. Like that's what they did last time. Who's to say it couldn't work again? So maybe Trae is thinking another layer. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's thinking ahead. He's ahead of the curve.
They also gave up less in the Morey trade than I thought. Like I always think of that as being like the Gobert trade, and it's not. They gave up
2 firsts.
2 firsts. Like
because the 1 first is probably going to be a fake first because it's the Hornets like lottery protected, the top 18 protected pick. The Hornets are not going to be anywhere close to that the next 2 years. So you don't have to, unless they get Wembanyama. Like that's the only chance that they separate themselves from that. So they really gave up 2 picks to get DeJounte Murray, which like. Look, everyone knows that listens to the podcast. I'm not a DeJounte Murray fan, but 2 first-round picks for a guy on that contract is fucking nothing. Like,
and it's Gallinari was the matching salary. Like that,
it's nothing. He literally, yeah. So it is what it is. But also last thing I just want to say on that Simmons Russillo podcast, I just thought it was perfect that he said that Andrew Nembhard, after one amazing game against the Warriors last night, is now in consideration for his 64 best trade assets in the league column is trade value.
He rules.
Andrew Nembhard is older than, or is almost Anthony Simon's age. He turns 23 in a month. It's the Herb Jones thing all over again. It's literally, I saw this guy play 1 good game, and I have the memory of a goldfish.
Dude, he's so good.
It's so good.
I love that.
It's so great. It's perfect. All right. Let's get into our last section. Matt, you are welcome to stay if you would like for this. We're just going to...
Wait, real quick, can we just talk about the Lakers real quick? Because I want to talk about how they're in the worst case scenario. So what is happening right now with the Lakers is probably the worst thing that could happen to them. And I don't think the Lakers fans are going to realize it until it's too late.
Okay.
They would have been better off losing out. Now they might actually make a trade. Like
they're going to make a trade.
Yeah.
But I'm saying they might give up the first-round picks, though, and they have no chance. They have no chance. Did you listen to Low Post today too?
I did, and I just want to say before we talk about it, Matt, in a moment of weakness last night, I might have went to the trade machine and put in James Harden and Tobias Harris for Russell Westbrook, the 2 picks, and Patrick Beverley.
Oh no.
I can't say burn down the Wells Fargo Center, but you can trade.
That's
Russell Westbrook.
That's one of the
Patrick Beverley into the Sixers locker room.
No, I thought like watching Cyberpunk, the end of Cyberpunk Edge Runners was going to be the worst thing I saw this year. That's much sadder.
Can you? I'm for it just because I want to see Doc Rivers coach Joel Embiid and Russell Westbrook on the same floor.
That would be brilliant.
Well, as Joel Embiid is leaving in the thing, it'd be James Harden.
He was just walking.
Oh, I didn't say Joel Embiid. I said James Harden and Tobias Harris.
Yeah. I said Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like that trade. Daryl Morey. I don't think Daryl Morey would do it because, as aforementioned, you guys need the reptilian Danny Ainge back in your
just someone trade his own
who
son.
Has no human, no human emotions. Just only,
Austin. We've traded you to Utah in advance.
You guys need to like rent like Danny Ainge for like one day just to make the Harden trade and then bring Morey back in. But anyway,
was supposed to be that kind of reptilian, no emotions guy. He didn't turn into it. He just wanted to get his old buddies from Houston.
He loves his guys. Yeah, someone said in the Discord.
He went to Houston and his heart grew too. He learned how to make friends.
Well, I mean,
I have overcome the calculators.
That would be a very funny movie. It's like James Harden, like Daryl Morey's The Button Up. It's like a Hallmark movie, but like just for friendship. Like it's like I Love You, Man. And it's like Daryl Morey like steps off the bus. He's corporate. Daryl Morey change everything, Houston. I'm going back to my roots. And then he meets James Harden. Who's like, have you ever been to a strip club? They retired my jersey at the strip club. And like they like eventually just learn that they're not so different, and they decide that what, together we can launder money. And then the turn of the movie is when an evil owner buys the team and is too cheap and fires Daryl Morey, and they're separated. But then in the climax, he finds a way. You're
gonna go to this team, but really, what's gonna happen is you're gonna ruin that team.
Daryl Morey has learned because, like, at his old job, he would have kept Ben Simmons as an asset, but now instead he keeps Ben Simmons for a whole year on the off chance that he could listen to his heart and reunify with the man who taught him the value of friendship. And it all ends with one big plane hug. I
don't think Daryl Morey is the kind of guy who would hold on to an asset that he would convince everyone had value, and then like everyone could say, "No, that doesn't have any value at all. What the hell are you talking about?" I say, "No, you just don't understand. You have to understand the numbers and technology." And then it turns out that the asset had no value.
That would never happen.
That doesn't. No, that's not Daryl.
That's not Daryl. No.
We have not discussed the possibility that the crypto crash just took out Daryl Morey's will.
Well,
that's like what's happening here.
Why all of a sudden the money is tight? Yeah.
Do you think he convinced ownership to like do like a? Is it like how the Mets owners were like involved with Bernie Madoff and like
the Will Ponds.
That's why they crashed.
I mean, look. Do we know that Sam Bankman-Fried had access to the Sixers things? No. Why did James Harden take a pay cut? We're not sure. I'm just saying we have to keep our head on a swivel.
Did we ever find out what the hell Color Guard was, or whatever the hell it was that they were?
Color Star.
What was Color? Whatever that weird. The best case scenario was that it was money laundering. The worst case scenarios is that it was like, the machines were coming.
It was like things that would get us assassinated for saying.
Well, but this is maybe we did get the announcement from the NBA that they are going to start allowing sovereign funds to contribute to teams. So, Mr. Ben Solomon, if you are listening, my Boston Celtics are ready for 7 max players. Let's go. I love Neom. I love what you're doing.
No, there's only one MBS. There's only one. Hey, there's one MBS.
Facade, my team yearns for freedom.
The only MBS. Who's the only MBS?
MBS allowed in the NBA is Maxi Better, sadly. We've said this many times.
Anyway, that was my Lakers tangent real quick. I just wanted to say that it's very funny that the Lakers beating the Spurs literally 3 times is going to end in them ruining their franchise for 2 more years. Because they're not good.
2 more years?
Anthony. Well, I'm
You
sorry.
mean a
for
decade?
2 extra years on the other end.
Yeah,
Like, they're
Let him cook.
going,
He's right.
The Pacers are going to get like a top 3 pick because of what has happened. Because everyone wanted to pretend that Anthony Davis was good again before he went out with flu symptoms in the middle of the game again.
What? Yeah, I mean,
he's very good when he plays. I guess
that's what I've been saying. Is like, and I think there is legitimacy to. Can we see it for? Can we see it for a month? Can I see it for a month? Like, look, there is legitimacy to that.
I made fun of Simmons, but he's kind of cooking me. I mean, like, the Clippers, that was the right take to have with the Clippers. And
absolutely.
He's owning me. Simmons once again destroyed me.
Yeah, you got to see it for a month, and we will see with Anthony Davis, but I'm not holding out on that. Once again, I want to see LeBron and AD healthy for. Give me 3 straight weeks of no injuries for either of them or illnesses. And then you can trade the picks if you want and pretend that you're finals contenders. All right. Okay. So even though Anthony Davis has played like really amazing recently, but okay. So
against the Spurs 3 times
in November,
scored 44 points against the Bucks. I think it's pretty good.
Jason Tatum did that.
Who you think should win MVP, to be totally clear, right?
Right, but he plays games, so if you think about that. Also, look, I'm just saying. I mean, look, hey, if Lakers fans want to tell themselves they're championship contender, let's go. Yeah, that's right. Anthony Davis is an MVP. He's first team All NBA. You cannot let that sit. Let's go. You're one step away. Trade those 2 first-round picks. I would love for your franchise, Celtics to, cushion that championship window a little bit more. Banish yourself to irrelevance for a couple of years. I would love that, please.
All right, let's talk best and worst contracts, or should say, this section is going to be the best and the worst acquisitions from this past offseason. So best moves from teams and the worst moves from teams. So Sam, do you want to start with your first one?
Yeah. Well, I feel like the first worst one is pretty self-explanatory. I feel like it's been covered ad nauseum. I feel like the Rudy Gobert trade is franchise crippling.
It's so funny.
I really don't think it could have gone worse. I feel so bad for Wolves fans, man. They're like, they deserve better. Like, it'd be very funny if this happened to the Heat, but it's just, it's just so sad. I don't know. It bums me out. I hope they could recover from this and Anthony Edwards can do it. But just, again, another example of, calculator boys, because looking at Anthony, or Rudy Gobert, he's so good at all these defensive metrics, forgetting that defense doesn't fucking matter if your teammates fucking hate you. Like, I'm sorry. I don't care how good of an individual defender you are. Your teammates need to like you to play defense together. So, and that is not happening.
Has Rudy Gobert ever had a teammate that we think was like, yeah, that's my buddy Rudy?
Well,
can anybody remember him ever having anyone on his side?
Did he ever play with Nicolas Batum? I'm just trying to think of other French players that might like.
I mean, just because they're French doesn't mean they would get along with him.
True.
No, that's how it works. I think. Yeah.
The French like each other. Everyone else hates the French. That's how it works.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to be on the same team. Solidarity is important.
Actually, Joel Embiid speaks French, so if we're talking about big, explosive trades mid-season.
Bringing Rudy Gobert into the Sixers, God, boy, that is probably aesthetically the worst thing. Rudy Gobert, James Harden, Joel Embiid, let's go.
I have drank the poison.
You're like that Russian general we've had it. All right, well, I think that's an easy open
one.
And shut case.
Even
I had that on my list. Yeah, I was gonna say that's a pretty obvious one. But do you want to do a best one as well?
Well, you go best here. We'll do Heat Miser, Cold Miser here for
okay.
Yep.
So I actually have someone that I know that you have on your list. So I'm gonna go and say I did a double dip here, which is the Kings getting Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk.
Yeah. Oh, you did both. Okay. Yep. That's good.
Yeah. So
signing Malik Monk for the MLE.
Mid-level exception has turned out to be, and Malik Monk is a guy that I've liked for a while.
Yeah.
I never gave up on him. I wanted the Sixers to sign him. He signed with the Lakers. He's turned his career around. He's become a really good scorer. Playmaking is great. The defense still isn't there, but like most of that Kings team is basically just high throttle offense, play no defense. And that's why they're a lot of fun to watch. And Kevin Huerter is a big part of that as well. Getting Kevin Huerter for what could end up being like the 17th pick in the draft on a pretty decent contract, that level of shooter, passer, and ball handler potential, like not terrible defender, like at least is like can survive on defense because of his size and he's kind of got good feel on that end. I feel like that trade could end up being a real steal for the Kings. It already has, but like I think if anything we talked about with Atlanta, that was the one big oversight where they basically they sold low on Kevin Huerter at his lowest value. Like if they had traded him after the Sixers series when he played great in the playoffs, they could have gotten way more after that Sixers series when he looked awesome and he had big games in the playoffs. And it's looking really, really good for the Kings and the Kings made a lot of good moves, to be honest, other than the Halliburton trade, which I still don't agree with, but yeah, so that's my best. How about one of yours?
So those were good. I mean, one of my dishonorable ones was also the other side of the Huerter trade. We'll see what that first ends up being, but that's, that wasn't very good.
That's tough.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I did a lot of positives I'm realizing. But I'll go to another positive one that I really liked here. I think Jeremy Grant
I have him
trade was really good. To stick with other, but then Detroit also recovered nicely. They didn't give up a pick in the Bogdanovich deal that they got Bogdanovich for. That's crazy. I thought they gave up like a second or something. They gave up no pick. So
they traded Jeremy Grant for the Milwaukee Bucks 2025 first, I believe, and then they flipped that pick for Jalen Duren, if I remember correctly. And then they took on salary later with the salary that was created from getting rid of Jeremy Grant. They took in Alec Burks and Nerlens Noel, I believe.
Right.
So, it's not a horrible return, but I would definitely rather have Jeremy Grant.
Yeah. I think Kemba Walker, too, was the other one they got.
Yeah, and then they waived him. And they got some seconds as well.
So, Detroit involved in some good deals for everyone involved. Bogdanovich, they could still flip Bogdanovich. I mean, he's been like one of their only good players. So, like, their Detroit situation, it's not really Bogdanovich's fault. So, like, they're going to be able to get him. They're going to be able to flip him for more than they would have been able to flip Kelly Olynyk for, I'm pretty sure. Especially
100%. And they extended him, too. They extended him for 2 more years,
So yeah, that pretty good bit of GM work. I mean, it hasn't translated to good wins, but I thought that was pretty good on both ends. So
yeah, I think that Jeremy Grant deal, and once again, I've talked about it. I've underestimated Jeremy Grant for a guy that's in the All-Star conversation for real this time.
Yeah.
For a guy who at one point I thought he could have went for 2 firsts. When the Celtics tried to trade for him a few years ago, I thought you guys were going to end up giving up 2 firsts to try to get him. Do you remember when Ainge's last year, when you guys were like before Jalen got hurt, there were rumors, but before the deadline, I thought he was going to end up going for 2 firsts. He only went for 1, and honestly, the pick wasn't even that great that the Trailblazers had to give up. So definitely good work on their end to get that level of player. Okay, so I'll go with one of my worst now. The worst. JaVale McGee is just maybe the worst contract of any MLE guy. At least PJ Tucker's in our rotation. JaVale McGee is not in the Mavs rotation right now. He got dropped from the rotation already. He looked horrible to start the year. He's in his 15th season, and they gave him 3 years on the MLE as a big. That is just terrible. That is just another horrible move by the Mavs. They just constantly shock me at how fucking piss poor they are at these margin moves, dude. It's crazy how bad they miss on every fucking signing. It's like they never like. When was the last time the Mavs had a free agent signing and you were like, oh, that worked out? They're always bad. They're literally always bad.
It's Jason Terry, I think, is the last time that.
Oh God!
Like I was like
12 years ago.
Yeah. Like I'm like barely kidding about that. Like that's so bad, man. I don't know.
If you had to bet on Luka playing for the Mavs or any other team in 5 years.
5 years today, he's gone.
Yeah,
so
he's gone.
So sticking with that, let me just say, I don't think this signing was good, but I want to highlight this as a move that did bad damage by them not signing someone. So I'm cheating a little bit here, but not bringing back Jalen Brunson is just one of the most dog-brained moves while we're shitting on the Mavs here. Like that is probably the most damaging non-signing, I think, of the NBA scene. And I just don't understand how they got caught unawares by this. Everyone was like, are you guys sure? Are you sure you don't want to do it? They're hiring Rick Brunson. Like, everyone is watching this happen in slow motion. Are you sure? There is no way you can replace him. He is an unrestricted free agent. He was a second-round pick. Like, are you sure?
He's the only pick other than Luka that you've hit on in the past 12 years.
The baby is toddling by the pool, and the Mavs are just drunk and asleep in their chaise lounge. Like, do you have to get him? He's going towards the pool. No, he knows how to stay away from the pool. He's a kid. Are you sure? Like, it's very bad. It's dangerous. Please, like, go get your child. And Cuban's just I don't know. I never – that was unfolding all last year in slow motion. The Mavs projected confidence and looked foolish because just what happened was what everyone expected to happen. Take care of your guys. I mean –
we talk about the value of extending guys in advance all the time. Yeah. When they're coming off their rookie contract, most times, not all times, most times those are going to end up being team-friendly deals if you sign them in advance.
And
the Mavericks could have had him for $15 million a year.
Yeah. And even when they don't work out, it's not that disastrous either.
You can get off the contract.
Right. It's not that bad. So, I don't know.
Almost always. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So we had another bad one. Let's go with a good one. I'm going to go with I'll just hit two here. And the two that I thought were good were both trades involving our teams, and that was DeAnthony Melton to the Sixers, who's been the only offseason acquisition that I've really enjoyed watching. I think he's a great defender. He's really brought a different level of defense plus competence on offense to the Sixers. And we only had to give up the pick that became David Roddy, who, like, look, I love David Roddy before the draft, but I'm not even sure he's an NBA rotation player. Like, we'll see. And then Malcolm Brogdon to the Celtics, unfortunately, which is, it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate that the entire NBA was just like, and like, look, I know Malcolm Brogdon has a ton of injuries, but like the entire NBA was like, let's just let the Celtics get Malcolm Brogdon. Like, it's crazy to me that, like, I know that he wanted to go there, but like, and like the Pacers wanted to work with him, but like, there wasn't one team that could one up Aaron Nesmith and a first-round pick. Like, I don't know. It's tough as a non-Celtics fan being like, let one of the 75 best players in the NBA go to the Celtics for basically for free.
Hold on. No. Okay, so it wasn't just Aaron Nesmith and Daniel Tice. You also had Nick Stauskas, Malik Fitz.
My bad.
Because the salary didn't work, so they had to include 4 different guys who were on minimums who immediately got waived. Yeah. So, both of those signings, by the way, were on my short list. I'm actually quickly running out of good ones. One of my last good one, or one of my last 2 or 3 good ones I want to bring up.
You said it to me earlier. You texted me.
Well,
or maybe that was worse. Maybe that was technically on the worst side, but
I don't remember what.
Okay, just
earlier,
go.
But I will say Bruce Brown.
Yeah, I have that.
The
too.
Nuggets is 6 years. I mean, his next year is a player option, so it's effectively a
2 years.
Deal.
Yeah.
So that's it's 2 years, but the second year being a player option means, and he should decline and go back to, because he will get a lot more money. But that was a great one. And I also underrated great minimum signing, Yuta Watanabe. Where would the Nets be without Yuta? Like, so honorable mention to Yuta here.
Really.
He did.
Well, he's shooting 57% from three or something.
Crazy. I mean, that's
something nuts. Yeah, but like if he's a smart player, he's pretty athletic. He's a good shooter. He's a good defender. That's a steal for them.
I
for sure.
looked at my text and I forgot. I didn't even write that one down. But the Hawks gave up Jock Landale for cash to the Suns, who is in their rotation.
which didn't really matter at the like. I texted the only person that cared about that was Parm. I was like, "Hey, Jock Landale, let's go." No one really cares about Jock Landale, but the Suns. I had it under my best and just had the Suns can't keep getting away with this.
Yeah,
because the Suns and part of me is wondering if it's just because it's a lot easier to build around perimeter players like Devin Booker and Chris Paul and whatever.
Yeah.
But another part of me is like, oh no, they have a real system with like movement shooters and ball movement and like they're not the Warriors, but like they have plays they run and Spain pick and roll and like they have creativity to their offense. And Monty Williams brings a level of knowledge and like actual structure for their offense. And that makes it so that they can play guys like Jock Landale and Damian Lee, who are veterans minimum guys that like no one really wanted. And they're actually pretty good on them. Just like every once in a while the Warriors get it and they can't keep getting away with it. I would like a normal coach who can just like do these things and like make it so that it's easier on everyone. And like, as someone pointed out earlier in the Ransom in the Discord pointed out that when the Celtics made it to the Eastern Conference Finals with Isaiah Thomas, they had a good playoff defense with Isaiah Thomas in there, like as their star.
Yeah, I mean, Brad Stevens, that I feel like that's almost irrelevant. Brad Stevens, they were tied for number 4 in the NBA the second year of Brad Stevens' career, and Jared Sullinger was our
that's what someone said in the Discord.
Yeah.
Jared Sullinger, but that's what I'm saying is like good coaches can get the most out of their talent in a way that the Sixers, like with Brett Brown and Doc Rivers, have just never really gotten. And maybe part of that is just due to the personnel that we had, but I think that there's more to it than that. So, like, I don't know. There are plenty of guys on the Sixers that I think you could figure out roles for them. But I also have Bruce Brown and KCP as a duo on my list for best. For worst, so I've talked ad nauseum about PJ Tucker. I still think that's a terrible deal. I think that it's going to age really poorly. I think that he'll probably not even be a starter on the team next year. We're going to be paying him $11 million to come off the bench. He's going to be 40 years old soon. So that's bad.
I hate seeing ageism like this on the podcast, but
look, he definitely remembers the Vietnam War. I'll leave it at that much. And Doc Rivers, that is why he wanted him so badly. Doc wanted him.
Do you remember the Simpsons bit where he's like, the principal Skinner is like talking to the students and he's like, okay, it's like the bicentennial, which obviously all of you are too young to remember, except for Kearney. Like Kearney's over there like shaving. That's PJ Tucker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like literally. One random greatest generation player.
You need him.
Yeah,
but yeah, so those were I have 2 more for worst, but Sam, if you have any other worst ones that you want to throw out there.
A lot of the worst ones are just kind of inaction stuff. Like everyone knows how I feel about the Warriors like letting Gary Payton and Otto Porter walk, and I think that's bared out that does not seem like that's going to work out very much. I had one more good one. We didn't talk about again, pretty self-explanatory, but the Donovan Mitchell trade.
I had that as my last.
It's hard to see that going too wrong. I mean, maybe they give up a really good pick at the very end, but I doubt it.
Who cares?
It seems pretty safe. It looks great. They've got their core set up for a while. Pretty open and shut case. Donovan Mitchell exonerated from being the one who made that Jazz situation. It's so funny that it's just Tale of Two Cities. Those 2 guys leave, and it's just completely opposite, like, differences. Yeah.
One team is doing great and thriving. Everyone loves him. He's talking about how he's, like, living his best life, and he's like, no offense to Utah, but I was miserable. Yeah. And the other guy's like, I'm not doing great over here, and the team is reflective of that.
I'm gonna start another COVID 2, unless I'm traded again. would create another COVID.
Rudy's in the lab.
Yeah, he's trying it out on different microphones. He's touching different microphones to see how he can.
The worst thing we did was trade Rudy Gobert to the state where the Mayo Clinic was, because now he's just like
we can't trade him to Atlanta. That's where the CDC is.
I know. He was safely contained in Utah. It was a sterile environment. Nothing could really.
Yeah, he's trying to get traded to the Wizards. Get Fauci on the phone. All right. And then I had for my last two here, my worst ones. And by the way, just on that Bruce Brown point, they're not going to be able to re-sign Bruce Brown, which sucks. Obviously, that's a massive win on the taxpayer MLE to get that Bruce Brown at that rate. But them not being able to re-sign him because of the Michael Porter Jr. deal is just fucking tough. Like that's going to be the new Tobias Harris contract, where like they just have no moves they can make because they have $40 million or $35 million on their books or whatever for the next few years. And at least Tobias plays the actual games. Okay. So the last two I have here, and this is not even necessarily the fault of this player, but Otto Porter Jr. injured again. It just sucks. Like he's never really been able to get right. Toronto desperately needs a player like that can space the floor, good passer, rebounder, defender, but he's just, I don't know. It seems like that 1 year in Golden State was a bit of an outlier, and that he might just kind of go back to being a non-entity due to the injuries. And then this is really tough. This is tough because I hate to do this to someone who was literally just drafted, but Johnny Davis, is just not an NBA player. Like, I mean, like, I think he's still 21 or 22, but like, he was terrible in summer league. He's terrible in the NBA, and I've watched him. He seems like he's afraid to be out there. It sucks a lot, and he's apparently been a little bit better in the G League, but like, he was the 10th pick in the draft, and like, it seems pretty obvious that like, if there's a guy that's gonna not be an NBA player from this top 10, that every year there is one. Johnny Davis might be the guy that is the one for the Wizards, unfortunately. But we'll see. I don't know. To see the guys that were drafted after Johnny Davis, like AJ Griffin, and Tari Eason, and even Jalen Duren, who's still like 18 years old, like all these super young guys that are like already contributing to their teams, it's just really tough for the Wizards, who don't really get a ton of wins in the draft, and that seems like it's going to be another L. Like they don't take the risks to really even have wins. Yeah. Like that's the thing with the Wizards. It's like every pick they've had for the past 5 years is just like the safest imaginable pick, and this time even the seemingly safe pick might end up being a bad one. So that's all I have. Do you have any other, Sam?
No, I think that's pretty much everything. We'll just look at my thing. One team I had like Isaiah Hartenstein. I just more like as a concept. I don't know. I just don't know if he's necessarily been good for the Knicks. Yeah.
There was a rumor that they might already put him on the trade block.
There we go. I liked that deal. I wanted to bring that up in the moment just because I don't think he's played very well, but I think he's still a good player necessarily. Yeah. So I think the Knicks do kind of have an asset there. So. It is annoying that he's on the Knicks. So
they need to fire Thibs for sure.
Yes, exactly.
100%. He's 100%. Absolutely ruining that team. All right, that's where we'll end it.
But I could have told you a guy named Johnny wasn't going to be an NBA player.
Wait,
that's all I'm going to say.
Hold on. Could we get to Will's point here? Because I think it's
a name thing.
He said he wants us to discuss how Nick Nurse played in 46 minutes a game to win Fraudy Barnes Rookie of the Year. I love the slam. That's right. That's absolutely right.
Wait,
look, Scotty Barnes.
46 minutes in a game at the end of last year, Scotty Barnes?
Yeah, I think so. He played a lot. Nick Nurse had them playing. He had like a 6-man rotation at the end of the year.
He's like, so sick.
Precious wasn't even in the rotation. No.
Wow, no, he played 41 minutes the last game against Boston, yeah.
No, he just didn't play guys. That's what I was saying. That's why I kind of like the Otto Porter signing for them, because they actually got a rotation player. But
sure.
And then he just got hurt again. And so that's like when – like that is why Raptors fans go insane with that's why they like overvalue the injuries, because they just don't have good players beyond their top 6. So whenever anyone gets hurt, they're like, well, what do you want us to do? We only have 6 players. It's okay. Well, that's why you're not good.
Sure. Yeah.
You can't have any injury whatsoever.
Well, Yuta Watanabe seems pretty good.
Yeah.
He never got the chance to play, unfortunately.
Nick Nurse is evil. Look, I mean, hey, Scotty Barnes is going to be a 10-time All-Star, and there's no way he's way more valuable than Kevin Durant. So,
undeniably,
undeniably. But if you call Masai offering Kevin Durant for Scotty Barnes, he's hanging up. He's hanging up.
It's still it's such a psychotic thing to say.
Yeah.
That we bring it up on every single episode. I think it's at least once an episode we have to bring it up.
I can't believe Lowe endorsed that. For shame, Zach Lowe. How do you sleep? God,
unbelievable.
That's why Him Bontemps would never do this. Chad Him Bontemps dedicating an entire piece to heat slander.
Well, Kevin Durant is the best player in the NBA right now. So I would take him over Scotty Barnes, actually.
I love him. Did you see, like, he made Heat fans go insane today because he just wrote an article that was basically like the Heat suck. He's awesome. I love
Okay, before we get out of here, one last thing on this. Tim Bontemps did probably, I would say, his Jordan run of Hoop Collective. They did a redraft of the 2020 draft. And he was like, so they were talking about like drafting James Wiseman, Isaac Okoro, all these guys. And he would just be like, let's get this out of the way. Isaac Okoro is horrible. and then he was like, okay, this one's pretty bad, but let's get to the real disaster. Because he was like, Okongwu, nice player, not Tyrese Halliburton. They would rather have Tyrese Halliburton. Let's move on to the real disasters in the next few picks. He's like, Killian Hayes, he sucks. He's horrible. He was like, not an NBA player. Totally terrible.
I love Bontemps.
Absolutely king.
Him screaming at like Windhorst is like one of my favorite things ever. Like where Windhorst is just trying to do like LeBron like placement studies about the Lakers, and he's like kind of going against Bontemps reporting, and Bontemps just gets pissed at him and is like, well, all right, we're not gonna do it. It rules. He's so sick. I first that was like ironic when I was saying that, but I genuinely think he's awesome.
No, I've come around on Bontemps because I don't know anyone who's quite as black and white in NBA journal. Like
he's not a coward like other NBA journalists who do access journalism. He will say what he believes.
Yeah,
like, and
we need that.
The things he needs. Yes, he's not playing the same fucking game everyone else is. Chad. Him Bontemps, the only ethical NBA journalist left.
Yeah. Well, Obi Toppin and Denny Avdia, they're terrible. They're not Tyrese Halliburton. I don't know why he's been.
Whoa! He just tried to.
I don't know why he's somehow become a mashy guy in the middle of this fucking impersonation. Well, I don't know what.
I thought it was good. I could tell it was.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I'm not mad. I can't do that. Oh, speaking of, we were supposed to plug that. Sam.
So, Hogs. This is one last thing for the Hogs here before we get out of here. What do we have an updated Patreon follower number?
We're at 275, I think. Hold on.
Okay.
Right now we have 274 Patreons.
Okay.
Patrons.
So Hoggies, by Christmas, Santa will leave you a gift if we get to 310 subscribers. That's right. It's up to you. It's a lump of coal. If you want to be on the good list, there is only one thing you can do: get us to 310 subscribers by Christmas, and I will finally give you the slop you have all wanted. That's right. We will have a very special Christmas episode of the Low Post podcast that will hit your feeds if we get to 310
with Sam
yes.
as Zach.
We're getting Zach.
We're getting Zach. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
we're going to get Zach to do the Christmas episode of the Low Post. There'll be special guests: Kevin Pelton, Kevin Arnovitz, Nick Nurse. The demon that possesses Nick Nurse, Belfagor,
Kevin Rudolph, let it rock.
Kevin Rudolph, we'll let it rock. All sorts, all the stars. It's going to be a star-studded Low Post. Zach has given me the tape, and we will release it. It's going to sound like me because the audio is a little weird, but rest assured it's Zach.
It is Zach. That'll
be my gift to all of the Hoggies if we get to 310. So that's our Christmas That is the Christmas gift / promotion.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Let's go.
So, if you want to kind of help the process, maybe get your girlfriend a subscription to the podcast that she can get mad at you. You'll be single.
You can't share it.
Yeah, well, you'll save gifts on gifts in the future when she dumps you immediately. So
exactly.
And you get the podcast.
Yeah.
So, guys, look for this. But in all seriousness, this is true. I'm actually planning on doing this. So, you could maybe try and call my bluff, and we don't get to 310 and see if I still drop it or not.
Okay, we're gonna edit that part out.
We prefer if we get to 310, but we'll see. It's up to you guys.
Matt just left.
Matt left.
He's like, enough of this.
Yeah. All right.
Take care.
Take care, everyone. Later.
Kind of fun editing this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say